Now I'm feeling all your heart energy. That's wonderful. So here's the thing. I am the last leg of the relay. I'm the one that's got to get you across the finish line, and I'm going to do it quickly, so you got to stay with me. We're going to start off by celebrating our successes here in Broward County. Thanks to the data done by Gloria Pudiak and amazing graphics by Keisha Gray, we're going to show you a visual story of what's been happening in Broward County over the last five years, and including some longitudinal looks 15 years back as well. So what we're about is improving life outcomes for children and families. And Broward County has done an amazing job of getting that done through collaboration, through provisions of evidence-based programs like the ones that Kevin talked about this morning, and also through improving our service systems and our community conditions for children and families to thrive. And so the combination of collaboration, evidence-based programs, and community and service improvements has resulted in significant improvements in child and family well-being here in Broward County. And I'm going to take you through some of those success stories. First of all, it starts with the backbone structure of that collaboration, which is the Children's Strategic Plan. From the initiation in 2000, where we had the convening of folks to come together, we've grown this strategic plan to now over 45 committees, representing 250 community partners who come together on issues from cradle to career to strengthen the outcomes for our children and our families. One of the big successes that we've experienced in Broward County over the last 15 years is a significant decrease in the amount of juvenile arrests. We've gone from over 13,400 arrests in 1999-98 to under 4,500 arrests in last year. That's a 9,000 arrests per year decrease through programs like the Promise program at the school district, through the civil citation programs that are being run by local law enforcement, through CSC diversion programs. We have made a significant improvement in the outcomes for children. In addition, that's reduced the number of young people who have been involved in juvenile justice. I blew through the slide because I'm on a fast track, but the numbers were we had over 8,300 youth in 1999 who were involved in juvenile justice. This year we had less than 2,500 youth involved in juvenile justice, so significant improvement. We've also seen a steady decline in the rate of teen pregnancy. So we've gone from 42 births per 1,000 to 16 births per 1,000 from 1999 to 2015. Significant gains. We've steadily and slowly declined the rate of repeat births to teen mothers from 21% to about 18%. We've also seen a slight decline in infant mortality, although I know we can do better, from 7 per 1,000 to 5 per 1,000 in that same year period. Our alcohol use, current alcohol use among youth was self-reported to decline from 44% to 31%. So we're seeing some significant improvements in pro-social decision making. Drug use has stayed level. After seeing a drop from 1991 to 1999. She saw that slide on domestic violence? It's a good thing I memorized those numbers. In domestic violence, we saw a decline from over 520 incidences per 100,000 to just under 320 incidences per 100,000. So children are seeing and experiencing less violence in their families. Some of those community and systems improvements are helping those conditions. And we've also seen significant improvement in our graduation outcomes. We've gone from 60% in 2007 to almost 80% last year. Great job on helping kids get graduated. Oh yeah, you guys anticipated my next slide. So these success stories don't happen without all of you in this room making it happen. So give yourselves another big round of applause for the efforts that you've made to improve the life outcomes for our children. We've still got some work to do. There are some deeply entrenched places where we have not been successful, where we have not moved the needle, or in fact, it's gotten worse. And so I'm going to summarize some of those key issues in the next few slides. Unfortunately, we have 1 in 5 children in Broward County living in poverty. That statistic for this thriving community is not okay. we need to really look at what are the economic conditions that our children and families are experiencing, and how can we alleviate and ameliorate those to improve those life outcomes. We also are seeing consistently across all of our service arenas, whether it's health or education or criminal justice or economic outcomes, that the indicators of well-being for Black youth are systematically lower than for white youth. This doesn't happen because of people's individual behavior. It happens because of structural conditions, and we're going to take a look at that and some of the work that we're doing around addressing that and creating more opportunities for our young people to thrive. So let's understand a little bit about the economic status of Broward County. A recent study showed that Broward County is in the top 3% of US counties for income inequality. What that means is that we have a ratio of the 1%ers in Broward County earning about $1.2 million per year, as compared to the 99% who earn an average of $40,000 per year, a 29-to-1 ratio. So we have this condition of economic inequality in Broward County, which affects the opportunities and choices of our children and families. In addition, we have housing cost burdens, right? 62% of renters pay more than 30% of their income on rent, and 42% of homeowners pay more than 30% on housing costs. A fair market rent for a 2-bedroom apartment, right, which is what most family needs, would require working 3 full-time minimum wage jobs or earning $24 an hour. The reality is, a recent study by FIU indicated that more than 50% of Broward working residents earn less than the median household income for Broward. These economic stressors leave over 80,000 children in Broward County food insecure. Many of these people who are working in the retail industries, the hospitality industries, education, and healthcare are providing vital services to our community, and yet they are economically distressed and making difficult choices for themselves and their families. Do we pay the rent? Do we put food on the table? Do we pay the mortgage, or do we take kids for recreation? Families are having to make very difficult choices, which puts stresses on them, making it difficult for having communities that embrace them and their success. In addition to the economic conditions that too many of our families and children experience, we also have a legacy of racism in Broward County that is creating systematic racial disparities in all indicators of quality of life. In 2015, Broward County celebrated its 100th birthday. We became a county in 1915, and we celebrated 100 years of that. Unfortunately, the first 60 years of that history was under Jim Crow. The discrimination, the segregation, and the violence of Jim Crow is a part of our story here in Broward County. And it continues to be perpetuated in ways that are showing up and hurting our children and our families here in Broward County. Right. So we have this legacy of racism that in the last 40 years, while it's illegal to segregate and to discriminate, many of those practices and attitudes are still embedded in our service systems and in our unconscious. And so CSC and our community partners are taking a look at how are we dealing with this ongoing 40 years of continuing residential segregation, where there are pockets of Black folks who are in concentrated poverty as a result of that legacy of Jim Crow. It's showing up in those places where we haven't been successful, where there are still too many children and a disproportionate number of children, Black children, living in poverty because of that historical legacy. We've got children who are being removed from their homes, Black children at higher rates than whites, and so let's ask ourselves, why is it that fewer white children are being removed? What opportunities and access and information and supports do white children and families have that our Black families and children don't have? And how can we create equity and opportunities for all of our families? We're seeing this disproportionality show up in the number of youth arrests. While we've made great gains in reducing the numbers overall, we still see that it's 5 times more black youth arrests than white youth arrests. 5 times. That's not okay. We're seeing the same disproportionality in teen pregnancy, higher rates, also in higher rates in infant mortality. We have a public health crisis in Miami and Broward County around HIV, new HIV infections. We are 1 and 2 in the nation, and it's disproportionately affecting our black youth. We've seen great strides in our graduation. We still have not closed the opportunity and support gap for our black youth who are trailing behind the white youth in rates of graduation. And so while we have done amazing work, we still have to go deeper and be more inclusive to, in the next 5 years, come back and say, we have closed that racial disparity gap. We have created equity in our community. And so the good news is that there are lots of things that are happening now to address those very entrenched community structures and conditions that we have here in Broward County. A recent study showed that when South Florida creates a racially inclusive economy, our gross domestic product will jump over $110 million. That's very important to create prosperity for all of our families. In addition, when we create solutions for groups that have been marginalized, we create solutions for all. I'll give you an example. The American Disabilities Act required that we cut curbs in order for people with wheelchairs to be able to access buildings, right? And so now, those cut curbs also benefit mothers and fathers who are pushing baby strollers. They also benefit people who are shopping, pushing their grocery carts. It's a whole lot easier to go through that cut than it is to jump over the curb. It also helps us when we move. A lot easier to get that moving cart through a cut than have to go over the curb. So when we create solutions for groups that have been traditionally marginalized, it's a win-win. And so taking that framework, how do we expand that to address the economic distress and the racism that we experience here in Broward County? So some things that are happening. The Children's Services Council is educating our network of providers around what is that history of racism and how is it continuing to show up in our lives, in our programs, in our service systems, and in our communities, and what are those things that we can do about it? What are wealth-building strategies that we can support young people and families in? And we're bringing national partners in to help us do undoing racism training, to do a deeper dive and have those deeper and more inclusive conversations to get people at the table to address these historical and legacies of racism. We've also begun embedding in our procurement tools information about racism and how it hurts our children today in Broward County, and what are those strategies and tools that we can use to address those things. And then the invitation is for you today to bring your ideas and your commitment to further this work. And very briefly, here's what your experience is going to be like today. We've created an opportunity that we hope reflects the future of our work here in Broward County. We're using the work of Peter Block, who wrote a great book called The Structure of Belonging, where he says that every gathering is an example of the future we want to create. And so today you're going to have a structure full of rich opportunities to be able to create that future of inclusion and equity and opportunity that we want for ourselves and our families and our children. This morning we're going to hear students debate about topics important to the community. And not all of the topics that are important to the community we were able to include in the debate. So we invite you to include those things that you're passionate about into those conversations and begin to layer and create that richness of opportunity. We're also going to be able to sit with young people from local high schools to talk about what are the things that they're seeing, what are their inspirations, what are their gifts, what are their commitments, and what promises can they make as well as what we make. So having those inclusive conversations. So we hope that you enjoy the youth performances that each breakout session will have in the morning as an artistic way to celebrate youth voice and to include them in the conversation. Consider how we can create more opportunities for civil discourse and the use of debate-like structures in our committee work and in our planning here in the community. And sharing inclusive conversations. Now, I'm a person who loves data and research. Think it's sexy, right? But not everybody feels that way, and I get that. So we've structured conversations today that invite you to share what inspires you, what are your gifts, what are the commitments that you're willing to make, and those are the things that we hope to include today as we go forward. And again, because we weren't able to capture all of the amazing work being done in the Children's Strategic Plan, we ask that those of you who are committed to youth with special and behavioral health needs, LGBT youth, folks who are working to create economic prosperity, all of those folks working with trauma-informed care, all of you bring your voice into the discussion, layer it in, take some chances, take some risks, go to something that you ordinarily wouldn't go to and see how you can be a part of that good work. That will be the future of how we create successful outcomes for our children and families here in Broward County. So we're going to continue the good work that we've done with collaboration, with the use of evidence-based practices, with improving our service systems and our continuing in our community, and we're also going to have conversations over and over and again that are inclusive, that build this sense of belonging for ourselves and for our children, so that in 5 years we can come back and report more successes to you. So let's leave here today and build a fair and equitable Broward where all of our children thrive and succeed. Thank you very much.